a really useful course because it's short and it cuts to the chase. It gives you the skills that you need to really do well in this test. Yeah. So IELTS is like any other test. It's testing different things. And that's what we're going to look at first. We're going to look at what is IELTS actually testing. And some things might surprise you. Okay. So please do feel free to ask questions as we go along during the presentation. I want this to be interactive as possible. I want you to ask questions. And then at the end, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, I will stay behind and I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so let's make a start. So first of all, as I said, we want to look at what kind of a test is IELTS. What is it actually testing? So this might surprise you, but IELTS is a test of two things, really. The first one is the obvious one. It's a test of English. And it's a language test in that sense. And for a lot of you, English is your first or second language. So that's not really such a big problem. It's not a big issue, right? So if my English is good, what's the problem? So it's also a test of logical thinking. And if you think about this, the purpose is to assess certain abilities like critical thinking skills, logical thinking skills, because when you go to university, right, whether you're doing an undergraduate degree or a postgraduate degree, you need critical thinking skills. And that's what IELTS is also testing. So it's not just a language test, it's also a test of your logical thinking. And that's what makes it challenging at the higher level of the test, the higher band scores that you need. So typically for university entry, for undergraduate programs, the typical score, typical requirement is 6.5 to 7, some courses 7.5. And then as you go to master's level higher, it goes up to 8. So IELTS is scored on a band of 1 to 9, and usually 6 is the lowest for a university program, 6.5. So that's in the higher right third, right? So you got to do well in this test. So your language already is good enough, but to go higher, you really need to use these logical skills. And that's why IELTS is a test of two things. It's a test of your language ability, which not a problem. And then it's a test of your logical thinking. So that's where the stress comes in when you do this test. It's the logical thinking skills. Yeah, so we need to think about the logic of the test, right? So the logic of the test is in how you approach it, especially in how you think about the questions in the test. And the test is divided into 4 skills, and how you think about the questions in those 4 skills is really the key to unlocking a good score for IELTS. So when we think about the skills, let's follow the chronology of the test itself on the test day. So on your test day, probably a Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, your first part of the test will be listening. That will be 40 minutes. Then it will be followed by reading, 1 hour, where you have to answer 40 questions in 60 minutes. And then it's followed by the writing test. So you have to do 2 writing tasks. You have to do an essay of 250 words minimum, and you have to write a report of 150 words minimum. And then there'll be a little bit of a break, and then you will do your speaking test, which is around 15 minutes in the afternoon. So basically the test has 4 components, starting with listening, then reading, then writing, and speaking. And I think for most candidates, the logic of the test is that the speaking is quite straightforward, but usually people, it's the writing, the reading that they find quite hard. And the listening, because it's the first part of the test, you're fresh in the morning, so your comprehension level, your attention level is quite high. So most people find the bits in the middle, the reading and the writing, to be quite challenging. Yeah, and both of those components are 1 hour, whereas the listening is basically 30 minutes of listening plus 10 minutes if you're doing the paper test to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. So I think it's the middle part of the test that can cause a lot of stress. Okay, so we've developed this program with IDP and it's called Ielts Direct. And hopefully this is a solution to the problems that you face on test day. So like any course, the purpose of the course is to prepare you, yeah? And we want you to go into the test confident that you're going to perform and basically get the score that you need, so you don't have to take this test a second time. So why class-based learning? So some people think, oh, I can go to YouTube, I can just watch the videos, I can go to social media, I'll find out about this test myself. Yeah, you can absolutely do it. But I think social learning has a few benefits. And we know the key benefit of all social learning is that you get a feedback loop. And in an IELTS class, that feedback loop can come from two sources. One is from me, from the work that you do. So obviously, we get you to do work in class and also a little bit of work outside class to show us that you're ready for the test, that you know what to do, and we will give you the feedback so you can zone in on specific areas. But also the great thing about being in a class environment is that you get feedback from your peers as well. That's really important. So that gives you the extra motivation to do well, that you're in a group situation. You're not alone sitting in front of your computer at night trying to revise for IELTS, that you're doing it in a group environment. And that gives you that little bit of extra motivation, which is important. Okay, so IELTS Direct is basically looking at the three classical P's that we think about. We plan, right? So you can plan your course. So we have courses that are 2 weeks long and they're over 3 days a week. So a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday combination, for example. So that's 2 hours on a Tuesday, 2 hours on a Thursday, and 4 hours on a Saturday. Yeah, so you can finish the course over 2 weeks, or you can do it over 4 weeks as well. So we have a bit of flexibility how you plan your course. Yeah. Also, as I said, we prepare you in the 4 parts of the test, the 4 skills. So the listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So it's very important that you know what to do in each of these skills. And that's why we practice. And the practice is based on focusing on process, because when you're receiving information, you have to process that information. And when you're producing information, you also have to think about the processes that you're using. So we really focus on process. So what does that mean? We focus on process. So in IELTS, you will see questions that you won't see in other tests that will be new to you. So those of you who've done O-level, you will see questions in the reading comprehension that you will say, wow, that's different. So you need a process. When you see that type of question that you haven't seen before, you need to think about, well, how do I approach this question? What's the most logical way of reading these questions? Should I read the passage first? Should I read the questions first? Well, it depends. And it depends on the type of questions that come up. And in the listening and reading tests, you're receiving information, and there are basically different types of questions, and you need to know how to approach those different types of questions. And that's what we practice in class. And we also give you some extra work outside, right? So if you can follow this logic of process-orientated thinking, you'll be able to perform your best then on the test day. And that really is the key, that you are able to utilize those skills, those processing skills, and maximize them on the test day. Yeah. But before your test day, you'll notice that we have the word outside practice in class and outside. So what does that mean? Well, we give you 2 full practice tests. Why 2 full practice tests as part of this Ielts Direct course? For a very simple reason. You have a choice now. You can take a paper-based test, or you can take a computer test. And some people don't know, which one should I do? Like, all my tests in school are paper, and then there's this computer option, or maybe you've already done some computer tests before, so you're not so sure. So we'll let you try both. So you want to try a paper-based test, or you want to try computer test? Yes, you can do it at our center, no problem. So we will give you a full test. That means the full 4 skills, and it takes around 3 hours, 15, 20 minutes. And we give you 2 of those tests. So we want to prepare you, right? We really want you to practice and prepare so that when you go and do your test, that's it. You get the score that you need, and you don't have to worry about IELTS again. So that's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to make sure that when you go and do the test with IDP, you are ready, and you're going to get the score that you deserve, right? And you get that score because you're thinking logically, yeah? And that's the key. That's the difference that this course will add value to your score. It will help you think about how to process the test, yeah? I'm going to show you shortly what I mean by that. I'm going to show you a test, and I'm going to show you how processing can help you improve your score. Okay. Just a few little more things I'd like to say about the test and the course. So first thing is about the course. So in the class, we cap the class at 16 students. So there's never more than 16 students, socially distanced. We also have a high flex delivery. So that means that the course is actually streamed live on this platform. So we're using Zoom. So we actually stream the course as well. So for whatever reason you couldn't come to a physical class, you can just log into Zoom and we'll give you the details, and then you can watch the class, so you can observe the class. And sometimes we get 2 or 3 students online, and we can get them in breakout rooms, and they can work collaboratively together as well in answering questions. So it's a really useful tool, so we can use this high flex delivery. And it's also a good backup in case with the pandemic anything resurfaces again and we have to shut down. So it's also an added insurance policy. Also, if you miss a class, so for whatever reason, you know, okay, there's a recording of the class. And in addition to that, there are makeup classes as well, because we're running the class every 2 weeks and every 4 weeks. If you miss a class physically and you want to come to a physical class to make up, absolutely no problem. And you have the Zoom recording as well. So we have you covered on all those angles. Yeah, we also give you a course book. Yeah, so you have in one place, you have everything that you need to study. And we give you some extra practice materials as well. So you get a bundle of materials that is more than sufficient for what you need. And trust me, you can go to a lot of different websites online and you will get contrasting information about how to write an essay, how to answer a question, how to approach the reading. This book is coherent, it's got everything that you need in one place, and you don't need to start looking at other sources of information. So all of this is included in the price. So if you ask the IDP guys, you'll get a nice discount. So for those of you who've joined our seminar today, we're very happy to pass on a discount to you for turning up and listening to us. And you just have to approach IDP and tell them that you joined this seminar. Yeah, so, and they will be happy to give you a discount. So all I can say is that you'll be paying less than you would for the cost of the test. So the cost of the test is $365. So the course fee that you will pay for Ielts Direct will be a little bit less than that. So we're giving you a nice little discount. Okay. So what do you practice? So at this point, I want to show you an actual IELTS test and what it looks like. So I can try and explain to you directly what it is that skills processing means. When you look at your processes, what are you looking at? Okay, so I'm going to show you an IELTS test. I'm going to start with the listening. So I'm going to follow the logic of the test. I'm just going to guide you through it very quickly. And the first part of the test is the listening, as I said. So in the listening test, you have to answer 40 questions, and they're divided into 4 sections. So the first section, you can see blank spaces, and you have to use 1 word to fill in the blank spaces. So what happens in this part? It's a transaction between 2 people, and they're sharing information with each other. And when they share the information, you're one of the 2 people, and you have to write down the information that you hear. Okay, so you see here the situation is in a health center, right? We've obviously got a potential patient and probably the receptionist, and there's an interaction. It's over the phone, and you have to write in the missing information. Okay, then you see you've got this multiple choice question. So you have to choose 2. And then again, more, this time a table, fill in the missing word, this time 2 words and or a number. So you will get combinations of words and numbers. This is possible. So this first part of the test is quite easy, very straightforward. Then you go to the second part of the test, things get a little bit trickier. So you usually have a visual. This visual here is a diagram. And as you can see, you've got the different parts, yeah, different buttons down here, and you'll listen to a guy giving instructions about how to use the water heater. So someone's not sure how to use it. And then you'll hear the instructions about how to use it, and you've got to match, you've got to label, right? So you've got to label the diagram. And this can be challenging because it's a visual question. It's a transition from what you just did before, which was not visual, right? So it takes a little bit of time to adapt to these questions, and the information comes very quickly. So you've got to be able to withstand that tsunami of information that's coming at you. And processing here is key. Getting inside the diagram, looking at those directions, verbalizing them to yourself before you hear the information coming. So this is really a critical skill for this type of question. Then we got some more matching questions, also on the same topic. So that's the first 20 questions. So that'll be around 15 minutes of listening. And as you notice, this first part and second part of the listening test, it's social English, it's everyday English, right? So it's everyday situations, social situations. Then we get into this third section, and this is different. The third section, now you're at university. And usually in section 3, you're in a tutorial. And it's usually about an assignment, and it's about giving feedback. It could be students giving feedback about a presentation they have to do. It could be that they're talking to their professor about a proposal. So the language here is quite academic, and it's more difficult. The questions become more difficult, and you have to use the information. You can see there's more information, and then you see direct questions and no more than 3 words under a number. And then the final section is a lecture. So this lecture, this 31 to 36 is multiple choice, which is quite tough. So you're doing 4 things at once. You're reading the questions, you're listening to the information as you read, then you're probably underlining keywords, and you're choosing a right answer. So to do those 4 things together requires a little bit of practice, right? So it's just a coordination issue. You've got to be able to coordinate so you can do all of those things together in answering these questions. So you can see in this section 4 that the questions, it's an introductory lecture, and it'll just be one person speaking, and they're talking about a research that they've done on wildlife in city gardens, right? So it's very fast and it's difficult because of coordination. So what we really focus on in the class is how to coordinate the information, and that's not easy. Okay, so then got 4 more questions, 37 to 40, and you can see again back to where we started in the first part of the test, filling in the missing words. So this one is a little bit easier. So the difficult questions in listening are the choice questions, and I think the matching questions, so choice questions and these matching questions, they also, the coordination problem, and also this kind of diagram question. So these are the questions that really you have to practice because you need the coordination. You need to coordinate what you're doing. So it's not easy, but with a bit of practice, and that's what we offer during the direct course, that's what you will get. Okay, then after the listening, so the listening test is 40 minutes. And then we go into the reading test. So the reading test is quite interesting. It has 3 reading passages on the academic paper. And it's the questions that are interesting because the questions are different. So there's a wide variety of questions. So let's look here. This is a true, false, not given question. So let me show you what I mean by process. When we talk about process, we need to logically think about how to answer this question. So the problem is this guy here, not given. Now, why is not given a problem? So not given can be a problem because it's a negative logic. False is a negative logic. True is a positive logic. So I've got 2 negative logics. I've got false and I've got not given. So it's quite easy to be confused between false and not given. So how do we avoid that confusion? We get rid of not given. How do we do that? We think logically. So Marie Curie's husband, right? Can we find her husband? Yeah, so that's the first question we ask. Can we find her husband? So we go to the start, right? Can we find our husband? Yeah, I can find our husband there. Yeah, so got that part. Then was a joint winner of both Maria's Nobel Prizes. So I noticed that word both, Nobel Prizes, joint winner. Let's see, was he a joint winner? Yes or no? So she was twice a winner with her husband. She was awarded the Nobel Prize, so won, and she then was the sole winner. So okay, you got the answer, right? So the answer is false, right?
Hi,
So,
David.
yeah.
Sorry for the interruption.
No problem.
We have another webinar starting in 5 minutes. I was thinking we could just do a quick Q&A as well before ending.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this logic, right, it gets a little bit trickier. Yeah. But the most important thing is that you process the information piecemeal. Because if you try and do it all at once, it becomes very challenging. And that's difficult, right? So you need to break down the information and do it one piece at a time. And then you won't have to reread the passage again and again. Okay, so these are the kind of skills that we focus on when we talk about process. Yeah. So the other parts of the test, yeah, we just got the writing. So just quickly show you. So the writing, got to do 2 things. One is write a report on information that you're presented with. So this is a synthetic task. You're given the information and then you put it into a report format. You've got to write 150 words. And then you got an essay. And this essay is the most common type. You're given a statement, and you've got to then write to what extent you agree or disagree. And you've got to write 250 words. So obviously, we practice how to write this type of essay. And then the speaking test, part 1, 2, and 3, 14 minutes long. And in class, we also practice this so that you get a good idea of how to answer the questions and what is the examiner looking for from you. So it's looking for good pronunciation, good vocabulary, a range of vocabulary, avoid repetition, don't give so short answers, try and extend your answers. Okay, guys, so I see a couple of questions. So if anyone's got any questions, please feel free, yeah, to jump in and just ask me a question. So any questions, just go ahead. So a question, hi, is the IELTS test compulsory for those of us who've been taught in English medium in Singapore, or is it optional? So yeah, this is a very good question, because a lot of you have done Cambridge exams, but this is a visa requirement that countries have set, right? So previously it was just universities, but now it's a visa requirement that you need the IELTS score. Right? So unfortunately, even if you've done like O-level English, right, they still need you to do the IELTS exam, right? So it's a political thing, basically. And because of that, we don't have a choice, right? So for Singapore students who want to go to Australia, UK, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, I'm afraid, yes, the governments require that you take the IELTS exam. Yeah, so then the universities, of course, have no choice. Yeah, so IELTS was designed for university entrance. So as you can see from the test, it's not a really difficult test as long as you use your logical skills. Yeah, so yes, you do need to take the test, and I think the course that we offer is a short 16-hour course, and it gets you where you need to be so that you understand the test and you know what the examiners want from you. And then you don't have to do it again. So that's the key for us, that first time you just do it and you get the result that you need, and then you can proceed from that. So good question. Thank you for that. So second question there, can I know the schedule? And if I don't pass the first time, I'm able to join the class again, or any charges? Thank you. So we give you 2 free practice tests before you do your test. So hopefully you know that you're ready. So we'd encourage you not to pay the $365 for your test until you are ready. So that's our responsibility. So we're going to tell you, are you ready to do it? And if you are ready, we'll tell you to go ahead. If you feel that you need more help, sure. Yeah, so what we do is that if you need more help, we'll give you a 50% discount. So you feel like you need to do the course again. So 50% lower, right? So we try to support you. There are longer courses, but honestly, for most of you guys, Singaporeans, honestly, we think that 16 hours, that is sufficient for you to get what you need to be able to do the test. And then on top of the 16 hours, you've got those 2 free tests as part of your course. So our job is to tell you that you're ready for the test. So we want to see that you can do it before you do it on the actual day of your real IELTS test. So we take our responsibility seriously. That's to tell you and share that information openly with you, that you're ready, go ahead, register for the test. Yeah, good question. So IELTS is valid for 2 years, yeah, as Sue said. Yeah, so 2 years validity.
Okay, I think the students who have any other questions, you can either contact David send a meeting request if you have any other questions you want to
Yeah,
be addressed, or go to the lounge if you need counseling for regarding any of this. And thank you so much, David, for your insightful presentation.
great. Thanks, guys, and best of luck with your IELTS. Thank you.
And the rest of students, if you want to go to the next webinar, you would need to exit this one and then join the next from the main account. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.